Back to the Dean Obeidallah show, Friday, November 10th. Third hour on this show on Friday can mean only one thing. On other shows, it means something else. This show, it means what just happened. As we look back at the insanity of the week, we have three returning champions, but a special champ who hasn't been here for a long time. I'm going to start with him. It's our friend Hal Sparks, comedian. You've seen him on numerous TV shows, from Talk Soup to his Twitch TV, his live streaming show, Stephanie Miller's show, touring nonstop, both with Nerd Hale and the band and comedy. Hal, thanks for making time in between. We were just talking before you started. Insanely busy. Thanks for making time.
It's super easy because I'm on the West Coast and nothing happens in the morning here. We're professionally lazy in those terms. It's sort of an anti-New York philosophy that we have, that, if you guys are going to get up early, we won't.
But we'll it's not that, right? So you stay up late. And I get up like 6:30, 7. My best part of my day, I have a window that's really good from 7 to 7:40 a.m. I peak then. The rest of the day is like a slippery slope into like a mess. So let me introduce everyone else. Rhonda Hansome is back. National touring comedian. We've done a bunch of shows together as part of Laughing Liberally comedy tour. She was Bermuda in the movie Pretty Woman, which was just on cable. And I saw you. I'm like, there's Rhonda. I'm not even joking. It's on cable. I don't know if it holds up the test of time. And also she's a regular part of John Fugelsang shows Tell Me Everything on this very channel weekly. Rhonda, nice to see you again.
Radio Rhonda's here and accounted for.
And also back, our friend Andrea Jones-Rooy, a social scientist specializing in complexity, which every time I introduce you, I go, remarkable.
I'm never going to tell you, Dean.
A stand-up comedian and a circus artist, all rolled into one. Andrea Jones-Rooy, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So let's talk some good news first. Joe Manchin gone. He's leaving. We don't have to play any games. And just so it's clear for everyone, because they were on social media, my friends who on the left are like, how could you be happy? We're going to lose a seat. He was trailing by 14 points to Jim Justice, the incumbent governor, who used to be a Democrat, who was a Republican, who was going to beat him. He knew it. So it wasn't like we're going to lose control of the Senate because of him. He was going to lose. At this point, it wasn't a close race. It was a blowout race. If it was neck and neck, I'm more pragmatic. I'll be like, it wasn't neck and neck. So Hal, since the first time you've been back on the show in a while, let's start with you. What's your gut feeling to the end of Joe Manchin as a Democrat?
Not a big deal. It won't shift the power structure of the Senate in any meaningful way. And the governor you could argue that he is the Republicans' Bashir. He is a middle of the road Republican, and is not somebody who's going to carry forth this. He's one of the few that isn't going to screw the pooch with, like, let's destroy all women's rights going into 2024, which seems to be their only flag in the earth right now.
And it's true. He actually was in favor of vaccines. He made it a big deal because he actually was a Democrat. He became a Republican, won as a Democrat originally. And people might remember during the time of Trump, he was at a Trump rally and switched his party allegiance. So he was elected as a Democrat. So it really was two of these conservative type of Democrats running against each other. Right. Rhonda, what about you? What's your take on the end of Joe Manchin? And just so people know, West Virginia went for Trump 68% to Biden, got 29%. That's like Saddam Hussein election numbers, okay?
Like Manchin had left the building mentally like at least a year and a half ago. He's been gone. I'm just wondering what took him so long to stop. He and Sinema, I'm just like so over them. I could like forget about them in a minute.
To me, with Manchin, it's actually slightly personal. Not that everything is about me, but he opposed Build Back Better. And that would have helped my mom get home health care aids. It would have helped millions of seniors and disabled people. But he stopped that. He was the reason that didn't happen. So, and Andre, as an
doesn't he have a bias against the elderly and young and children? Doesn't he?
He doesn't like people from the womb to the tomb. He doesn't like anyone, unless you're wealthy.
Have you ever? Okay. I don't know. Andrea's probably watched this movie, but I don't know if anybody else has. There's a documentary called The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. It is about Jesco White and the White family, the aptly named White family, where their great grandfather, Jesco Sr., whatever the heck his name was a senator from that state when Social Security became a thing, and he had his entire family declared mentally incompetent so they could get free money from the government because he was against it. But if it was going to pass, he was going to game the system forever. So these people have been multi-generationally viewed as mentally challenged, even though they're just West Virginians. And watch this movie, and then you might again? The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. It was an offshoot documentary. NPR did a thing on Jessica White, who was the last West Virginia clog dancer. And you'll understand why that art form died just from the clips they show you. It had no survival rate. You're like, it just looks like somebody threw ants in his pants. Like, get off the picnic table and come down here and change your pants. But that whole thing, they are some of the most awful, drug-addled, inter-family, physically fighting and molesting each other, just terrible. And they're indicative of a large swath of what would be considered sort of Western West Virginia. And when Manchin talks about you can't just hand out money because blah, 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 the rest of us in blue states are like, yes, you can. Sure. People have structured lives. Yes. And he looks at all the people that are surround him in West Virginia that are like the wild and wonderful whites of West Virginia and goes, no, these people will be dead in a week. Like,
we can't give them.
Andrew, by the way, that also seems like a documentary on alliteration. I would have watched it for that. Yeah. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of W's.
Oh, it's a lot of was.
Right, yeah. A lot like that. I thought it was so. Andrea, bring your complexity expertise to this. What's going on?
Well, my complexity expertise at the moment is hung up on why Hal was like, Andrea's seen this movie.
Because you have a PhD.
First I was flattered. I was Dr. Like, well read. And then I was like, oh, because I'm like also part of the wild, wonderful whites of West Virginia. I'm from Western Maryland, which wants to be West Virginia. So I have no leg to stand on. But
well, the South now starts any direction outside of any major city as soon as the lights fade in your rearview mirror. And the irony that you could be in northern Wisconsin, 18 miles from the Canada border, and everybody's like, the South will rise again. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? You practically speak French, you idiot.
Andrea, by the way, Andrea has a PhD, so I'm required to call her doctor for the rest of the
That's right. I do require
if anybody else wants to be a doctor, you can be a doctor. So Dr. Andrea Jones-Rooy, so what about the politics of this? Because right now it's 51-48, 49 Democrats control the Senate. We actually only have 48 Democrats. We have 3 independents that caucus with us. So now we lose this guy. It's really a bad map for us. We're not going to win any Republican seat.
Right.
Ted Cruz, but that's a tough one, I really think, to be honest. So we have to win Ohio and Arizona. Those are the 2 key battleground states. The other ones that are up, I think we can win. What do you think? Are we going to do this?
I mean, it is. I'll just say it's a bad state of affairs when Manchin leaving is bad news, potentially mathematically for us, because he's such a pain. Also, I just want to say politically, we've all got to change parties more. Here's how we're going to win, Dean. All Democrats should run as Republicans. And then once they're elected to the Senate, just swap.
Change back.
Say, just kidding. Like, what are the rules? There seem to be. So that's our big strategy. But backup number 2 is I'm feeling good about Ohio these days, which is not a sentence I say lightly, because of how they turned out on the abortion issue this week. So I actually have a little bit of hope. I don't know about Arizona, but Ohio, I feel good about. I'm going to be there for Thanksgiving, so I'll do my work.
Ohio?
I'll be in Ohio for Thanksgiving.
Knocking on doors for Sherrod Brown. That's why. That's right.
Going? Yeah. Much to the dismay of my in-laws. That's what I'll be doing. If
there was any Democrat who could carry the state again, it would be Sherrod Brown, because he's so well known. He's won a few times for a statewide office, and he's all about blue collar working class people, and they believe it because he's sincere. The guys talk about the dignity of work forever. I mean, that's an phrase that he actually coined, I think, at this point. So, Rhonda, let me go to you for a second. On Sunday, New York Times had a poll in 6 battleground states. Joe Biden losing in 5. Democrats went crazy, not all of us, but even David Axelrod's like, Joe Biden has to look within himself. Is it the right thing to do? And why is it Democrats? Why are we so skittish of a people? We're like cats that hear a loud noise and then we just run to the other room. Like, why is this, Rhonda?
Because we're hanging by tender hooks. We really are having we've got wars. Every time I turn around, I'm reading about where we're fighting. We have so many issues with the borders and migrants and supporting people who are not citizens. I mean, we have a lot of things going on, and there's a reason to be skittish. There really is a reason to be skittish because so many of these things hit people at home and in their pockets, in their wallets. I think we have every reason to be sweating bullets and ballots.
Right.
I think it has to do with caring. I think one of the reasons why Democrats are so skittish is because we actually care about the ramifications of this stuff, because we know it impacts real people. And so we get nervous about it with good reason, because you don't want, because to them, it's like programs get cut. To the Republicans, the programs get cut, or they'll get rid of the Department of Education. And it's just kind of like it's like a name or ripping a bumper sticker off. But to us, it's like, tens of thousands of poor kids not getting lunches and not getting books and that kind of stuff. That's how we react to it. So I think our reaction is based on that reality. On the other hand, I wasn't worried at all, and I'm still not, and I'm not going to be. I feel better about the upcoming elections than I have, since pre-Hillary, Mitt Romney era type stuff. And I would also, for the record, like to bring up, and only you can see this on
what is this?
I'm officially a colonel. So if you're going to call her Doc because she's got a PhD,
Colonel Hal Sparks, I have to write that down.
I am officially a Kentucky colonel, designated by.
How did you get to be a colonel? And what militia are you a colonel in, my friend Hal? Like, where does this come out?
Well, I've been a National Muzzleloading Rifle Association member since I was 8 years old. I have a Herschel House Kentucky long rifle, and I played the water boy in the reenactment of the Battle of Richmond when I was 9 years old and marched in the parade. And that's what it was. Yeah, Andrea, you were there. Yep. Whatever. And quite frankly, you were great.
Thank you.
You were really great. One of the best red coats I've ever seen in a 3-year-old. I think because I don't even think it's even close. You weren't even born. You were not born when I did this. I guarantee.
The Battle of Richmond during the Revolutionary War. During the Revolutionary War.
Yes, Richmond, Virginia. So the Kentucky militia came to the rescue and saved the American forces during the Battle of Richmond. And if not for the Kentucky militia, we wouldn't have a union, as it were. And also, Lafayette being a Freemason. That's the other reason we exist. But those are two reasons America exists.
And that's why we're here having this show. Thank you very much.
That's right. Yeah. and as a Freemason, I'm allowed to do one dunk a show.
It's kind of interesting. Like, I lived probably 15 blocks from where the British headquarters was during the occupation of Manhattan, which was the UN. And Nathan Hale was hung just about 10 blocks from me. And they crossed the river. The Battle of Brooklyn happened. They came over the river and they went north, and they all hid in Harlem. No one was living there at the time. But it's funny, they went to Harlem and Northern. So I know this because I just read 2 Ron Chernow books, one on Hamilton a year ago, now one on Washington. And I feel like Alan Hale's.
And Alan Hale Sr. is the direct descendant of Nathan Hale. He was lucky enough to have a kid before they hung him, so that we could have the skipper from Gilligan's Island. It's a weird. No, I'm kidding.
Now, am I reading this clearly that Hal Sparks is responsible for the United States being a united country? Is that it?
Yeah, that's the headline here. Yeah,
you're welcome.
It's all Hal Sparks, and I didn't know Kentucky played that big of a role. It didn't make the Chernow book, but maybe Chernow's working a new book. Kentucky, Liberators from England, whatever it might be. All right. Rhonda Hansome here, Andrea Jones-Rooy, and our friend Hal Sparks. So let me ask you, Andrea, because you touched on Ohio already. So Sunday and Monday, Democrats, it's over. We're going to lose. Who do we got? Newsom, VP Harris. Tuesday night's election, we win in Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio's like, we won. It's over. So the whiplash is a bit much for my neck, but I don't want to be as confident as Hal. I agree deep down. I think we're going to win. So I want to be somewhere between a house cat hearing a car backfire and the idea of like being confident to go forward without fear. Like, we're going to come out big and we're going to win, and it's in our own hands. It's like a football team. We don't need anyone else to lose. We can just win by coming out, and it's up to us. Doing
what we need to do. I hope that you're right. I feel more like, so Hal, I'll maybe reveal how old I am, but my first election was I'm going to really go back in history, was the Al Gore debacle with George W. Bush. And from that moment, it's been clear to me that every time I think the Democrats are going to pull something off, they don't. And I guess Obama is a big exception to that, because I felt pretty great in 2008. That was like,
and Biden. Yeah.
Right. But it's just, I guess, and Biden, but it hasn't been without tumult, right? Like, we did win, and I do believe that we won, but half the country is arguing about it, and it's a big mess. So that was like 2008 was like the one time in my lifetime that like an election went the way that Democrats would go, like really would go. Obviously, Biden was a huge win, but I think we're all we went into, I'm so burned from the Hillary Clinton, like we went into 2016 so confident, and we're just so wrong that I refuse to be confident ever again, like in my own personal life and politically. Like I can't do it.
I have a particular chip on my shoulder about, sorry, Rhonda, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm with you because I feel like you're not going to fool me again. You got me once and that's it. I can't believe you.
My issue with that, with 2016 specifically, was that wasn't them winning. That was us losing. And this time around, because of Roe v. Wade and because of the depth of seriousness of the issues going on and like union jobs and unemployment, being the direction it is, people are recognizing, and the stark contrast between competency and normalcy and the chaotic nonsense going on in the House, that it's going to cost weird Senate races are going to get cost 2-3% because of this nonsense, because people are going to go in there and go, well, these guys are idiots. And that's not going to stop because of the abortion thing on Tuesday. I'm sure you guys saw the reaction from the Republicans. It wasn't like, oh, we need to rework this. Like somebody like Sean Hannity said something along those lines.
He was the only one that did.
Change the narrative, what he said, not the actual policy, which is very telling. But everybody else was like, maybe we just weren't loud enough. And you're like, okay, asshole.
That's one thing the Republicans are doing right. They're very loud people, I think.
It's but one point to go back to that Andrea said, because of that election loss, she's lost confidence in her personal life as well, not just politically.
That's
so
the key here.
It transcends politics. Like it's a life defining event.
You can't count on anything, Dean. There's no place for hope in modern society.
There's a little
Jesus
the line I'm
Christ.
taking on this Veterans Day.
That's the complexity.
All right. So in Unbreakable, when Bruce Willis finally confronts what is his sworn nemesis, or if you're familiar with the name Snatch from the movie, they meet their direct nemesis in a movie, very carefully broken down. Andrea is clearly my nemesis. She is anti-hope, and I am all hope all the time.
His superpower is hope. Rhonda, do you have a superpower, or is there a kryptonite for you? Like, what could affect you either way?
My superpower is skepticism.
I think you're on Team Andrea. Okay.
I am so suspicious of everything looking. Yes, I'm with her all the way.
So that skepticism and inconfidence team up to take on Hope Man over here.
You'll never take me down. Not ever. And I'll tell you why. Because optimism is the methodology of the human race, whether you know it or not. Because every meal you eat, you think you're going to at least digest it. So you do everything you do optimistically. You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth optimistically because you want to keep your teeth for tomorrow. Even if you're miserable, you do it. Even miserable people are optimistic in this. And I just put a bit in the mouth of that and a saddle on that optimism and ride it into the sunset.
I feel like I've accidentally subscribed to life improvement TikTok, which, by the way, I do follow. The entire algorithm is convinced I need all the support I can get. So I
TikTok, TikTok is malware. Get it off your phone. Anyways,
you should subscribe to Hal's Twitch show. But I think it's kind of interesting, the idea, the optimism inherent in all of us, in that when you eat food, you count on it's going to digest. You don't eat it going, that's it. I've eaten. It's not even going to make it through this. I'm gone.
I'm not there. No. They're talking about 3D salmon now coming out of a printer. With my janky computer, I'll end up with salmonella and paper cuts. I don't believe. No, you're not going to get me with the.
Also,
and yet you still hit print. You still print things.
When I'm eating, I'm not thinking about how I'm going to digest it and it's going to nourish me. I'm eating because I'm sad, and it feels better to eat something.
Look at that! Wait. With every single bite in that very description, you are assuming that bite, whether it does or not, will make you feel better. That, my dear friend, is optimism. That, my dear friend, is hope in every spoonful.
All right, I'll buy it. Whatever powder you're selling, I'll buy it.
He is Hal Sparks, Andrea
no powder,
Jones-Rooy,
no drugs, no alcohol. Sorry, I'm completely straight edge. Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Look, I'm an optimistic person myself too. Maybe not on the 10. Hal's like an 11. An optimist.
Yeah.
I'm like an 8. Like,
I'm the spinal tap of hope.
He's the spinal tap of hope.
Hal makes optimism seem sad. Yeah.
Look, Hal, you make a great point though about Republicans in the GOP debate on Wednesday. That joke of the show, but they had you had Nikki Haley being not pulling back on abortion, but trying to sound pragmatic or like, I'm okay. But you had Tim Scott going, if I'm president, states like California, Illinois, you're not going to be able to do what you want. Ron DeSantis, same idea. I'm like, they don't care. And I don't know which of them are actually religious fundamentalists truly, or just playing to their base. It doesn't matter to me. The words of their mouth is, I'm a fundamentalist, where there's no pragmatism. I'm like the Taliban. We're going to do this, and I really don't care. And I find that really remarkable. So what is their plan? And I want to touch on one thing. North Dakota State Representative Brandon Pritchard posted on X that he called on Republicans in Ohio to, quote, to ignore the results of the race. It would take courage to do so, but ignore it because should not allow for the murder of babies. So it really is this, okay, if we can't win by yelling more or more signs, we're just going to ignore democracy, which is what January 6th was about. So, Hal, why don't you go first, and we'll go around the horn on this one.
Well, look, I don't know why we have 2 Dakotas in the first place. Let's just start there. I'm still not convinced we need them. Quite frankly, we could mush Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana into one state, and they'd have the population of an LA suburb, and yet each of those areas have 2 senators apiece. You want to talk about balancing out the Senate? If we did it even remotely by territorial population, just sensible numbers, like you don't even get to call yourself a state unless you clear 1 million. It's 2023, for God's sake. Like some of these states need to start losing their status because they're just basically gas fields. They're like mini Russias. So kiss my ass with this status. And if you work and live in North Dakota, or you're an elected representative in North Dakota, of course you can tell people in states with actual populations how to live their lives because you have nothing to fear. You got 19 farmers and a bunch of polygamous cults living up in the woods who only come out of the woods to vote for you every 4 years. Of course you can BS your way through it. They're not going to listen to him. And again, I am happy, though, that he's talking. I'm glad he's saying this because it's absolutely awful. And most people, the vast majority of people, and the biggest group is independents, go, okay, screw that. No. And they're the group that is going to drift. They're going to go, if the Senate falls into the hands of these people, no. And so they're going to, in these areas, wherever, like Arizona and stuff, they're going to drift it towards the Democrat because of that very obvious concern. And so let them talk. Let them say this stuff. The more they say it, they're more out in the open about it. It will benefit us long term, especially around the abortion issue, because they just they can't help themselves. Like they just can't take no for an answer.
And I just Googled Brandon Pritchard. He won his last election 3-2. So it was a close race there in North Dakota.
Did they vote with teeth or?
It was 3 people to 2. It was really close. It went negative. He went negative at the end, and that's how we get that one swing voter. Rhonda, what do you think about Republicans? And Rick Santorum was on Newsmax saying pure democracy is a bad thing for America. And that's why they do gerrymandering, which I call affirmative action for white Republicans. I mean, that's what gerrymandering is. So, Rhonda, what is your take on Republicans openly going like, hey, who cares what the results are? Let's just ignore it.
Well, that's an American tradition of ignoring democracy. We're very selective about when we are going to choose to uphold those values and when we can ignore them. I automatically assume that it's going to be a disregard for the real tenets of true democracy.
So you're not at all completely in line, consistent with the GOP brand. Andrea, anything you want to add to this idea that openly putting in writing, by the way, it was on social media, and when a reporter who writes for the National Review, which is conservative, said, hey, I wasn't happy, but we have a constitution. And he said that he responded that, killing babies is not a good take by you, that kind of thing. Like, okay, so that's what we're at now.
Right. Right. No, I'm going to bring our factions together on this show. And I'm going to agree with both Hal and Rhonda and say that this is what we've always been doing. It's what Americans do and I'm quick to say the Republicans more, and certainly in my lifetime, the Republicans and particularly Trump started really saying it out loud, which is like, these rules aren't good. This news isn't good. Therefore, it's not real. Like, it's just like the sociopathy of the American patriotic way. And I feel glad with Hal that they're saying it out loud and putting it in writing. So we can all say, look, you're actually saying these things. It's not that they're being clever and they're doing I love the phrase of white people affirmative action, Dean. Like, they're being sneaky in their electoral college and they're hiding behind their structural or whatever that gives them unfair advantages in the Senate and all of that. But this is like, oh no, we're just rewriting the rules. It's like the Ohio thing where they tried to change it so you need a majority to win. It's like playing tag with someone who's like, actually, if I'm standing on 2 feet, I'm free. You're like, you're just making up rules.
Yeah, right.
It's not fun. What do we do?
In Ohio, right?
Over here. Yeah.
Right. To remind people, they try to raise a threshold to 60% to have a constitutional amendment. And by the way, after they lost that, and I wrote about it for some publication somewhere, that Frank LaRose, the Secretary of State, then they try to rewrite the summary of what was going to be, that they actually rewrote the summary on the ballot. You could see that made it seem ridiculous. And they wouldn't let you have the actual ballot language in the room when you voted. It was just a summary written by Republicans. And it lost. They still got shot down. They were doing anything. They
it's
don't
like arguing with a toddler having a tantrum where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
they freak out because you don't let them do the thing, and then you let them do the thing, and they freak out because you made them. Like, you just can't win. It's just a screaming. If we're cats that are scared, they're like ferocious rabid cats.
Yeah, or I would say that they're just like rabid dogs in a pen.
Yeah,
they're like, no, we're pettable. You should like, well, it's just a playground. They'll be fine. Like that. It's nuts. Here's the thing that ultimately gives me some sense of hope on this is that the biggest ad the Democrats can run next year is Donald Trump being interviewed by Chris Matthews, where he said there has to be some kind of punishment for the woman if she gets an abortion. And when that happened, the fact that we had 75,000 faux-aggressive, call them Bernie bros, call them whatever you want, that held their nose and didn't show up to vote in 3 swing states that gave Donald Trump the Electoral College when he lost the popular vote by 3 million votes. That was the 2016 election. That wasn't Barack Obama numbers. That wasn't in 2016. And with the growth and availability of mail-in ballots and stuff in a lot of other states post-COVID, which they're trying to draw back, but they're not going to draw back enough of them. There's more people are going to be engaged in this election than the 2016 election. And now, because of Dodd and because of Roe v. Wade, Dobbs rather, you're going to women who may have been hold their nose or stomp their feet or whatever, leaning Trump or not voting at all under Hillary or going a woman, but not that woman and that nonsense are all coming out. They're all going to vote. 51.7% of the electorate is going to show up on election day, and 8% of them are going to vote for Trump or DeSantis or whatever the hell else. And the rest of them, whether they are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats or not, are going to vote blue. And they're going to vote blue.
Good. That sounds good, Hal, but I'm not going to forget that even more women voted for Trump the last time he ran. Even more, a higher percentage.
But that was also because of mail-in ballots. You had the availability. You had the lazy voter in red states. And in some cases, I would like to say, in terms of the villages, voting a couple of times. So the percentages might be a little wonky even then. In Florida, they literally voted twice in a bunch of places. We had 8 villagers that went to jail for voting 4 times. And because Trump told them to vote again and again and again. I honestly... If we go back to 2016 numbers and we just don't have the faux-aggressive crowd going, if I don't get everything, nobody gets anything, which is the biggest danger the Democrats have. The biggest danger to democracy itself is people going, I don't like it.
Not good enough for me.
I know.
I can't.
Right. That's it. Because we have enough voters. The polls this weekend, this kind of proves it out, and then I'll stop filibustering. But the polls this weekend, they went, essentially, the structure of it was 100 Democrats and 100 Republicans. And we asked them how they're going to vote or what they think about blah, blah, blah. The problem is in those districts, there's 13,000 Democrats and 8,000 Republicans. But the polling was done 100 to 100 as if they're equal bodies, and they are not. That's why Tuesday went the way it went.
I'm with you. I think now we've learned polling's absolute bullshit. We got to take a break. We got to come back and talk about father and son bonding over porn, which is kind of interesting with Speaker Mike Johnson and the SAG-AFTRA strike ending. And
yes,
we have to. Let's take a break. We're taking a break, Hal. Stop. Let's take a quick break. Be right back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show right after this. And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. Hal's still upset with the topics we're going to talk about right now. It is Friday, November 10th. Continue with our conversation with Rhonda Hansome, Andrea Jones-Rooy, and Hal Sparks. So this is true, but weird. But apparently I talked to a Christian national expert on my show Wednesday who told me this is mainstream right-wing evangelicals. Speaker Mike Johnson, the new speaker, came up from an interview he gave a year ago saying he was trying to help his son quit porn. So they have this thing called Covenant Eyes. It's an app that tracks users' use of their computer and monitors each other's activities so they can see, right? So they can help them quit porn. So they're seeing what kind of porn the other person is looking at, and it's to help them quit. And I'm like, who would want their dad?
Wow.
Exactly.
How old is the son? Remind me. He's quite young,
17
right?
at the time.
Rhonda. Yeah, I'm talk about being suspicious. First thing, he's walking around going, my black son isn't for reparations. And it turns out his black son is like a drug addict, career criminal. And, he's got to monitor his porn. I don't like the way this sounds. This sounds very self-serving. Oh, we're so religious. We have to make sure that we have an app that tracks whether or not we're doing porn. The whole thing with this black son seems very suspicious to me.
I don't know if it's a black son, though. I don't know if it's a black, but let me add one more thing. So
the
software,
the porn monitoring is with the 17-year-old white son. The black son is 40 now.
Right.
He was 14 when he moved into the house, and the same height as Mike Johnson at 14 when he moved in the house.
And by the way, just for this Covenant Eye software, it sends a report to your accountability partner. And Mike Johnson said last year, so my accountability partner right now is Jack, my son, who's got the greatest porn collection ever. No, he didn't say that last part. He's like, he has found stuff that I could have never found. This kid is good.
It
sounds like a kink. It sounds like a kink. It does. Weird. The whole thing sounds like a kink. I'm sorry. Like, all of it sounds like I want to show my teenage son my porn and isn't it naughty? And look at it like Alan Watts once said. Yeah, I know. Alan Watts once said that there's Christianity is the highest form of kink because nothing is naughtier than making sex dirty. And so the whole point of making sex dirty is so that it's, I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. And this whole thing sounds like an extension of that kink. It's gross. It's super weird. I know porn stars that have kids and their kids know what they do for a living. And this creeps me out more.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Well, because the parents go, Andrea, what is your take on this kind of weird thing? Who is your accountability partner, by the way?
So you're my accountability partner, Dean.
I am? Wow.
Yeah, I've been sending you a lot of updates. You don't seem to be opening my emails.
I'm gonna have to check.
Here's my question. I am not a religious person, so someone's going to have to fill me in on this. But I thought the whole thing with like religion, or at least with Christianity, was like, we want to do good things because God is always watching us. If God is always watching us, why do I need an app that connects me to my father or my son? Right? Like, isn't that enough? Are they just admitting they don't think that God is real by saying or is God developing the apps? Is that where we are now?
You're introducing logic into illogic.
God created the apps through his wisdom, using man as his vessel.
I see.
Yeah, there's always that.
I should have known. That's on me. Yeah, all right.
You're silly. That's very silly, Andrea.
Yeah,
why are you?
That's in the Bible. Now that I think of it, it was Jeremiah 2023.
Aren't there porn stars? Shouldn't they be like the Stormy Daniels app, like that kind of stuff? Like, I'm here to help your son or your daughter get through accountability.
No.
It's clear that now people are notorious for participating in the exact behavior and activities they're purported to be trying to avoid and help other people avoid. They are notorious for participating in these things.
Mike Johnson looks like a pastor that just got his house raided by the FBI and is filing injunctions to keep the contents of his hard drive from being leaked to the press. That's look at him, and you're like, yep, here we go. All right, this dude.
It would not be surprised. Like, nothing would be surprising if anything came out about him. You'd be like, wasn't surprised at all. So on an interesting note here. Changing gears, let's talk about entertainment stuff for a little bit. Tracy Chapman's song Fast Car, which I listened to a few times since I heard the story won the CMA award. What a great song. It's haunting too when you really listen to the lyrics right now. But it was debuted 35 years ago, which made me do math. I'm like, oh my God, how old am I now?
I was in high school.
Right. So and Luke Combs, the country star, did a remake. It became a huge hit, became #1 on the country airplay chart, making Chapman the first Black woman to top the chart with a song that written by a Black woman in the history of the country music charts that they've done. And I'm like, that's sort of like the bigger story on some level. But his version, I actually listened to his cover and it was pretty good. Like he didn't do it. He didn't try to make it his own other than sing it. It's exactly the same song. And her version is, it's when you hear the lyrics now, it almost sounds like a country song. I could see why country singers, it's about someone struggling and, you know, dad having alcohol problems and mom leaving because things, and we're going to get out of the shelter and make a better life. It's actually a beautiful song, but it's haunting at the same time. So Rhonda, what do you familiar Fast Car? Do you remember this song? And can you believe 35 years later, it won an award on the Country Music Academy? I can't believe it.
Well, it's about time. It's about time. And I think sooner or later, people will start recognizing the fact that country western actually has Black roots and salute the Black people who are responsible for it. So I'm happy about it.
Careful. People might watch the Bela Fleck documentary about the history of the banjo and find out that it's an African instrument. And then can you imagine the heads exploding in certain quarters?
I didn't know that. That's, you know, so many documentaries. Hal Sparks.
I know Bela Fleck.
You know, and the other one, all the alliteration with all the W's. So, so you know, you're in a band. Like, have you ever played Fast Cars? Do you like this song?
I've sang it. Really? Acoustic and like for an Earth Day thing in 1995, I think, when I was before anybody gave a crap who I was. When I was, I call the 90s the Sisyphus years for acting and comedy for me, which is like every show was rolling a rock up a hill and watching it roll back down. But yes, absolutely. And that album, I got to say that there was a pivotal string of female artists that came in a cascade, and she was part of the reason that tipped it off, because her and then Sinead O'Connor's record, and then I would argue Tori Amos's debut record, those three things, you can tie those together in musical history, which is labels giving women, you know, post Kate Bush and the Carpenters and people like that always, or even the Eurythmics, having to have like a male cohort just kind of sitting there, you know, being their the Garfunkel and Oates gag is sort of about that, like having the sidecar there. You didn't need it anymore. And some of the artistry that came out of those three albums was pivotal, changed, I think, songwriting. I think that album affected grunge lyric writing more than it sort of impacted the country and folk scene.
That by the way, Tracy Chapman won a Grammy for that album or for that song. And I saw a documentary about the Go-Go's. So there you go.
Oh, now, dear Lord. They were the Motley Crue of female bands. They were nailing everybody. They were.
Didn't make the documentary.
That's you watched the wrong documentary. Then, my friend.
I have to be your accountability partner.
The Go-Go's were notching belts, baby. They were they were in competition with with male hair bands for how many groupies they could get and how many. Yeah, it was impressive.
I was just talking about that they were women who broke through, at least that documentary. I'm like,
well, they delivered the beat to white people who couldn't dance, was the theory at the time, because they literally just told you where it was. Like, we got the beat. It's right.
Yeah.
Here's the beat. White people, we got the beat.
Like, where people are like, where is the beat? And they're like, we've got the beat. It's right here. You know?
Is it on we? No, it's on the beat. The beat, just
it
the
is.
words.
And it was 4 on the floor. There was nothing to that. There was none of this like walk like an Egyptian, cruel summer.
Bangle stuff, right.
Bongos in the background. Screw that. They were just like, here it is. Just try to put your foot down, and here we 1, 2. Don't break your knees. All right.
I always learn so much on this show. I learned how to dance just now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hal's got a lot of stuff. He is a bundle of energy and information, which is it's the information part. I get smarter by, you know, in the words of Larry King, I never learned something when I was talking. So I try to be quiet. He said that. That's a really great quote. I always remember that.
Yeah, it's not been my experience, but I understand what he's talking about. I've never learned anything when Larry King was talking either.
No, right, to him. So we can agree on that about Larry King. But the bigger point is, like, when people come on, I'm here to listen and learn all the time. And I do research, of course. I know everything about all three of you, but we won't get into that. So SAG After Strike finally ended. 118 days. There is Glee in Mudville now. And I don't know, Rhonda, has that affected you? I don't know. You're still doing, I know you're doing comedy all the time, but were you auditioning for SAG After stuff?
I'm available, and I want somebody to book me because I need the work. I need the work, and I'm glad the strike is over. And I'm hoping that over these next 3 years, we get treated properly and we don't have to come back and start fighting some more. I'm happy the strike is over, and it's long overdue for us to be compensated. And especially, I want to read the details on the use of artificial intelligence and how that's going to be affecting workers.
Right. I'm limited to only being able to have one of three of you be AI going forward. That's the new
I'll do
rule.
it.
It used to be everyone, but it was now it's just one of three.
I'm literally named after the computer in 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh,
Hal.
And I'm shocked. Yeah, I'm shocked you didn't bring that up.
Hal? No, was it Hal? Or the computer was Hal, or the guy was Hal?
Yeah, Hal. The computer.
Yeah, the computer was Hal. It's like, Hal, why are you doing
that? My name is short for high order assembly language.
No. Well, you weren't really named for that, were you?
Yes, my mom read the book the year before I was born. She read Arthur C. Clarke's book, and I was born the next year. I was born in '69. She read it.
I got named after my mother's alcoholic college roommate. I want to be named after. I want to be named after that.
Well, I got to say, Andrea is one of the few kind of naturalistic names that floats around there that does sound android-ish. Like if there's going to be an android in the future, it might, like, somebody's going to reveal Andrea, come out, and then
Rhonda, who are you named after? Rhonda, is there a story behind your name?
Rhonda Fleming.
Really?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was named after Salahuddin, the Muslim warrior who liberated Jerusalem from the Christians. So there you go, folks. That's what I'm named after.
We all have the same origin.
Right.
That's great.
That's what my father wanted, Salahuddin, and my mom, who's Italian, goes, no, I like Dino. And then they compromised on Dean because Dean Martin was big. Right. And my mom's like, okay, everyone knows he's Italian. And my father's like, okay, Dean, still in Arabic means faith, but it would have been kind of, if I was Salahuddin. So
you were named after a George Michael song. That's what I would just tell people.
Yeah.
Dean? Was there a George Michael song named Dean? I didn't know that.
No, Faith.
Oh,
See,
Faith.
Andrea was with me. She was right.
You thought it's like the audience members.
Yeah, right. It's complexity.
It's like when you tell a joke.
Multiple references. Yes.
No, but it's like when you tell a joke and you let the audience add the and then they laugh because they're like, I'm so smart too because I got it. And I wasn't. I was lost. I'm like, what does he mean by that? I don't get. Was there a song Dean by George Michael?
Right.
An unreleased track coming out now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For the record, there has never been a song called Dean because it is one of the least singable names in the world. Dean, there will be a song called Larry.
It's not easy being Dean. There's an easy you could do a song. It's not easy being Dean.
Yes, but it would involve a puppet.
It would. Right. So Hal, you're probably the most affected by SAG-AFTRA strike ending.
Yeah.
So how's that? We don't know the details. We're still waiting for it all to be released. But what is your take on it looks like a historic increase in salary, raising the minimums by 7%. That's better than WGA got. Talking about a bigger contribution to the pension plan, which is really important and more. So what's your take on it?
I am of two minds about it because there is going to be a shift in about 5 years because the way of making films is going to shift enormously over the next decade because of virtual production and AI and scanning and the like. And there will be other addendums to the deal that are, that we'll see how the details work out or whatever. But there's going to be essentially, the ability to scan your entire person on a movie. That way, if you pass away, we can finish the movie and your family gets your money, whatever, that kind of stuff. And the question will be, does that scan die with the movie, and you can't, can you give limited rights to it in the future? If they decide to do a sequel 112 years from now, do your descendants get the money from that as if you worked the actual day? Because these are real considerations that are going to happen. I think we put in, there was some early weight on like scanning extras and all that kind of stuff. And are they going to turn them into people? Okay. They don't. If you look at the Unreal Engine's MetaHuman system, they don't need to do that at all. You can make armies of non-existent human beings. It's not necessary. The only thing they're going to scan you for is to match you up with, if you were a real extra, they want to scan you in case they have to reshoot something. They don't have to find you and the wardrobe you bought and all that stuff and brought it to the set that day and make sure you still have it or find somebody who looks like you. Or they'll just throw you in the background walking by and getting your coffee and doing it. That's going to be a normal part of filmmaking. There's no way to avoid that. And what there should just be is normal compensation for it. If we do that, we pay you for the day. Even if you weren't there for the day, a virtual number of production days, because you would have worked 3 days. We use your likeness to reshoot. Yeah.
Rhonda?
There also needs to be transparency in the bookkeeping around streaming. I think that they were hiding a lot.
It's gonna be a bonus in that.
Oh, and the foreign part is ridiculous. Like that, I as somebody who has 2 series that ran in foreign markets and were number 1 in 8 different countries, what we would get back from foreign, like, was, as far as portion of advertising compared to what we get in the United States, was pitiful. If it's part of the country because it's an impoverished country and they're airing it and in like some areas,
right, exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Hal's funny, right? And we can watch that. But I forgot I was hungry for 40 minutes.
Yeah, UK and in most of Northern Europe and that kind of stuff. Like when Queer as Folk would air over there, we would get nothing.
Really? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, we would get like pennies per episode, and it's pitiful because they ran it as a first run show there. And the same thing was true of Lab Rats, my Disney series, which I took as a complete mercenary. It was a joy to do, and everybody working on it was fantastic, and I had a great time. But the only reason I originally signed on was because I've never heard screaming like I've heard when a Disney kid I've never heard of is standing behind me on a red carpet. You stand next to like Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, and people are like, wow, there they are. And then some like redheaded, like short person from a show that you've never heard of on Disney XD walks out and everybody's like, oh, Jesus. Like the whole place falls apart. So
kids are the best fans. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're great. And
they grow up and they're horrible, but they're great as kids, right? They're just so. Well, look, I think it's gonna. I'm really hopeful they got a good deal. It's also about unions really coming to their own under Biden. Yep. I think Biden being the most pro-union president. Mm-hmm. Literally, we've never had a president talk about it. I wasn't here when FDR was here, who signed the Labor Relations Act. But since then, we haven't had a president like this. And I think that emboldens the unions. Good deal. United Auto Workers just settled. Good deal there. UPS didn't have to go on strike. Almost worked. They got a good deal. So, and we're seeing
the train workers last year. They got they didn't actually have to strike. They paused it because they didn't want to do anything. But ultimately, what they got was as good as if they had struck.
Yep. So that's all right. So before we run out of time, I just want to give people time to talk about Andrea. If people want to find out more of the complexity, the stuff that's going on with you, where can they go, my friend?
Yes, you can go to Jones-Rooy, JONESROOY on all the social medias and jonesroy.com and YouTube. And next week, I'm starting releasing videos from my NYU data science course called Data Science for Everyone. And so it's a 24 video series of like how to do data science with an accompanying free online textbook, totally free, available. So find me on YouTube.
Where's that going to be on YouTube?
YouTube, yeah. Jones.
Why don't you go by Dr. Jones-Rooy? I would like
Dr.
Jones. Dr. Jones. This is so great. There was a famous
Dr.
Jones.
Her Dr. Jones-Rooy.
Rhonda, what about you, my friend? Where can people find out your stuff?
I want people who are around New York City, tri-state area, come see me at the Crane. I'm doing Funny Women of a Certain Age next Wednesday at the Crane, and they can check up with me on Twitter, or now known as X, at Rhonda Hansome, like a handsome man without the D.
And Karen Montgomery was on just last week, and who was the creator of Funny Woman of a Certain Age, the Showtime series.
Very successful franchise. She's a
billionaire now. Hal, what about you? You've got a lot of things going on. Where can people find all your work?
I stream like a maniac about 20 hours a week, 3 morning shows, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm on in the mornings, 9 to 11 West Coast time. And then, of course, in the afternoons, 3 to 5 p.m., I go through all the right-wing clips and break them down. I don't take anything out of context, and I don't pre-watch any of the videos, so I'm attacking them as they go, so I can fact check them in real time, and it's not a setup like you see on some other shows. And then exactly. My Saturday radio show is on WCPT Radio in Chicago. I also live stream that at infotainmentwars.com, which is how you get to my live streaming show, or twitch.tv/Hal Sparks. And then every other Tuesday, with the exception of the next couple of weeks because of Thanksgiving, I host the Ultimate Jam Night at the Whiskey on the Sunset, the world famous Sunset Strip. Last show I sang Heartbreaker by Pat Benatar, Alone by Heart, and Bad Romance, the Hailstrom version of that. I've done next time up, I think I'm doing some Ace Frehley, some Rush, some it'll be a good time. But if you're ever in LA,
I'm coming to LA just to see the Whiskey. The Whiskey is famous. There's so much.
Yes, it is. And we got famous musicians.
Hal, for you to sing "It Ain't Easy Being Dean."
It ain't easy being Dean. I have all the lyrics to it.
I have a frog puppet around here somewhere.
Oh, exactly.
Like
it's a parody of It's a Green. You guys are too smart. Rhonda, Andrea, and Hal, by the way, what website, Hal? Did you mention the website, infotainment?
Well, infotainmentwars.com is what takes you to my YouTube page where everyone should subscribe unless they're evil. I mean, if you're evil, don't subscribe. Just watch because I can teach you a thing or two. But subscribe if you're not evil. And then halsparks.com, of course. And I'm at Hal Sparks on all social media because I get in early.
Yeah, nice.
Hal, Rhonda, Andrea, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed chatting with all three of you.